requires a Route 17 upgrade. So,
as well as utilities.
as well as utilities, right. That's the only one that has a major highway upgrade. The sawmill, Flammable State, should have, although I know buses already travel that road, but not the degree that they would be if the school was located there. So most of the properties are, 1.5 with Camden, and then kind of the same there, 1.8, 1.7, 1.8 on these last three that we've looked at. Westfall is rather expensive because of the water line and the road upgrade.
Impound.
Right. So we brought back the two that we felt like that were kind of high on the list from before, and added these other four, and wanted your all's input. Get the lights back up.
I'm thinking out loud now. What questions do you have about the additional sites or area preparation costs and the pros and cons?
The sawmill would it be the flattest?
No. Well,
Get close.
yeah. Cannon Flats and it would be, well, and really the one out at Cedar Creek would be pretty flat. Those three, as
Which
far
one at
as,
Cedar Creek, Ted?
Yeah,
sorry?
The Reed side or Little Crook Creek at Cedar Creek?
The Reed site.
The Reed
The
side's
Reed
the
side.
flattest?
Yeah, this one is very flat, very minimal site development. Well, we can tell pretty much by looking at that cost sheet. The Reed site is $460,000 in earthwork cut. Westfall is actually $373. So really the Westfall, as far as the way the land lays, has the least amount of site work as far as cutting material. The Reed site out at Cedar Creek comes in second, with the sawmill really fourth, because Little Crooked Creek is less than that. Little Crooked Creek, we're basically just cutting off the top of the hill, cutting off a certain amount of soil, moving it over to create the play fields or parking area.
That's the one, if you were driving by a common, you couldn't tell there's anything there. Obviously with a laser on it, it's a little different now, but you really can't get a look at it unless you go up on the site.
It's on the left after you cross the bridge.
Yes.
I was confused about what you read.
Yeah. They're actually owned by two different Reeds.
If you're, not to confuse you, but if you're at Cedar Creek coming back out, there's a meadow there on the left. If you look across, I don't know if that's Cedar Creek or Little Crooked Creek, but
Cedar
if
Creek.
you look across that water, that's the hill that you would see. So you would see the hill from Cedar Creek Road if the school was built there.
Say that again, Ted.
If-
Coming out
if you're
lower
coming out of
Cedar Creek.
No, coming out of
Cedar Creek.
So,
Cedar Creek Road.
oh, okay, coming out of Cedar Creek Road.
There's a big meadow there on the left.
That's right.
Just before you hit 32.
Just before you
Right.
get to 30, if you're there at the road looking across the meadow, across Cedar Creek, and that hill that's just beyond there is the Little Crooked Creek site.
Okay.
So if the school was built there, you would see the school from Cedar Creek Road.
So the one that costs the least amount of prep work is Camden Flats?
It's the residential
Actually,
area.
Westfall.
Mhm.
But
Well,
over-
it's small and my glasses are not working.
Yeah, yeah, now that we got that light on, but it has the least amount of dirt, earthwork to be moved. Overall, though.
Now, I'm looking at the big picture.
Right, the big picture, the Cannon Flat site is the least costly.
Okay, but does it allow for the high school if they,
It does, but it's very, very tight. And that's where the committee, the last time,
Said no.
pretty much decided it was not the top site.
Plus you've got residential area there, you're moving buses in and out of it. It's not the greatest situation.
And part of the idea of researching other properties is there was comments, I think, by all of us when we were looking at travel distances, is how far it is from Normantown and Rosedale to a school, and from there to Sand Fork, and looking at all of that. So that's what kind of started having us to look at something further south of the auction barn property.
That's when the 3 additional sites came up, which was, I was thrilled to look at. And then the additional site was the sawmill site with the college, for the 4th additional site.
And I don't have it on the map here, but the other Arbuckle Trust site that's out by the by the cemetery, that one we pretty much removed because of travel distance. That you had to come back into town, get through the light, and go south. That one was high on the list as far as development, but as far as travel distances, you all deemed that was too far from Rosedale.
If you think, you just picture Route 5, on the Braxton County line near Burnsville. We run a bus all the way to that, actually run a little bit across the county line up the holler. And then if you look on the other end, all the way down to Rosedale, and you've got those 2 distances to be the farthest. And you've got to find some point as equidistant as possible. What's the most center point? And what we've actually come up with is that little Crooked Creek site. If you look at the thing, the total cost is 1.8. What it's got going for it, it's got electricity already there on 33. It's got the water line already on 133 right there. The site preparation costs are not that great, and there's about 73 acres. I talked to the owner. The owner indicated to me, have it appraised and make me an offer. So you've got what appears to be a willing seller if that ended up being the particular site. Plus overall, from the stoplight in Glenville here to that site, it's 3+ miles, which would be 3+ miles closer toward Rosedale. And if you look at the 2 farthest points, that's probably about as close as you're going to get on 33-119 to be as center as you can find. And that's kind of the thought process that I've ended up with. You look at the Westfall site, beautiful site on Lower Cedar Creek, but you've got the road that's inadequate, and you don't have power, and you don't have water. You look at the Reed property up close to Cedar Creek itself. Beautiful flat piece of property, but you're limited on size. Plus, you've got to run a water line another 9/10 of a mile. And you've got to run the power all the way from 33-119 to that site.
Plus you got that much further travel distance of your buses in and out,
Yes.
That's the-
traveling
Yeah.
Cedar Creek Road.
And considering that we're going to bring kids from Sand Fork Elementary as well as Glenville Elementary to the site wherever it ends up being, as well as the kids from Normantown and Rosedale area.
So Crooked Creek is actually the 2nd largest piece compared to when we were up at the Arbuckle.
Yeah,
As
pretty much,
far
I
as
believe. It's what we
thinking
have,
of the
73
future?
acres of that.
73 and 74, so they're very close to.
Yeah.
Can we see the blow up then of Little Crooked?
But Little Crooked Creek was how many acres?
73 acres on it.
73.
Mhm.
You see, it's a large area, and basically what we've done, this is already a boundary, So you'd want to go ahead and buy that. You wouldn't want to leave this to that other owner and become landlocked, so.
No.
Plus, this all is in the floodplain from Cedar Creek, so some of it is not really, you've got some hillside in there, so it's all not conducive to building. But the top, where the picture is would be a very nice site.
Cedar Creek water, you know, is contained within this line 30 feet wide or whatever, so it would come out of its banks, would come to this point. But, you know, there's a possibility of adding some other fields or outdoor classroom there. Maybe at some point in time, we can continue to look at it, but the possibility of putting the high school here is probably an option, although we did not look up that ownership of those properties.
Is it really important to have a piece of property that you can develop both the elementary and high school right beside each other?
Well, that's what the
The
committee,
long-term goal?
their desires were
Okay.
when they first started this, was to have a piece of property, whether you buy it now, but have an option on it so that at some point in time that could be a possibility.
And what Ted said there, actually, when you look down in this area, there's a lot of additional properties in here that could be developed as far as high school is concerned at some point.
It's all undeveloped right now. Continue up Little Crooked Creek, there are some camps up there, but in this area, from here back is all undeveloped.
I'd like to suggest that we eliminate 2. Because this is just gonna take forever.
Mm-hmm. What do you suggest?
And I suggest we eliminate Camden, Flats, and Westfall.
I agree.
Makes sense.
I can understand that.
Okay, what are other thoughts you have?
I'm not terribly in favor of the Crooked Creek site that is beside
Cedar Creek?
the state park.
I
I
agree.
just think that it's too far down that secondary road. I just don't think that that's,
It's awful narrow for buses.
Okay.
I just don't think it's ideally situated to accommodate, accommodated in the word, to be,
Yeah, that's the site that, there's just definitely not a property that expand for, you know.
So you're suggesting we eliminate 3, Nasha?
I suggest in addition to your 2 that we eliminate Crooked Creek.
Okay,
Is that a motion?
let's just think about it for a while, we'll talk. What about the college site, the sawmill place?
What's the pros for that? That's water?
It would be close. Sewer, probably not. But, you know, we're going to have to do a sewer plant regardless where we go. The biggest drawback there would be the road in and out.
What was the acreage on that?
I think it was like 25, but
There's not very
Mm.
many.
25.2.
Would the state help with the road?
No guarantees.
No?
But this property is all owned by the state and Glenville State, so we could buy more, I presume, if we needed it. But all we were identifying here is that all we needed was about 25 acres for an elementary school.
The biggest con, I think, there